Today I'm resharing a conversation that I had with my good friend Ben Gleib because, well, I think it's important. Ben is a stand-up comedian, actor, game show host that you probably know from his Showtime special Neurotic Gangster, or maybe his regular appearances on Chelsea Handler's old panel show on E! Called Chelsea Lately. Maybe you've heard his voice work in the animated films Ice Age 2 as Sid, or The Book of Life, or most recently in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. He also hosts a game show on Netflix called Idiot Test, but there's something you might not know about Ben. He's been politically plugged in throughout his career and has made many appearances on CNN, NPR, ABC, and even Tommy Loren's show on Fox TV. And for the past two election cycles, he's produced and created and hosted the Telethon for America, where he rounds up a bunch of celebrities and they call folks all over the country and try to encourage them to get out there and vote. But back in 2019, Ben took things a step further and he actually ran for president of the United States of America. The conversation I'm going to share with you today is all about his time on the campaign trail and the aftermath of what happens when a comedian runs for president. But before we get to that, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about pushing yourself and breaking these limits we set for ourselves. Because when I think of Ben Gleib, I think of somebody who pushes those limits all the time. You know, I went hiking the other day for the first time in a long time, and it was awful. I'm not going to lie. I had to stop for water a bunch of times. I felt absolutely exhausted. And I even made a deal with myself that if I made it to the halfway point, I could turn around and go home. Now, I didn't end up doing that. No, instead, I pushed myself and what I thought my limits were, and I made it all the way to the top and back down. And man, I felt fucking great. A few days after that, I went to that same mountain. I hiked that same trail again, but this time it was different. I only stopped for water one time, and I made it to the top without any issues. I was shocked. How was my body able to adapt so quickly? A few days later, I went again, and it was even easier. And then a few days after that, and so on and so forth. See, we set these limits for ourselves all the time because we're scared to see what happens if we push them. I gave myself permission to stop at that halfway point that first time that I hiked because of the fear of not being able to make it up the entire trail. Like, what would happen? You know what I mean? Like, am I going to die on this mountain? That's what it felt like. But when we push those limits, when we challenge ourselves, that's when real growth happens. That's where the change you are hoping for lies. Hope and change and all of those wonderful things you daydream and journal about, they're all on the other side of those limits and those barriers that you have set in place. What's important to remember is that you're the one setting those limits, right? Like nobody else was on that mountain that day telling me that I couldn't go any further. No, it was me. I was the one telling myself that. I think we have this idea that it's you versus the world. It's not. It's not your surroundings that are dictating how far you can go or anybody else around you or this or that. No, it's not you versus the world. It's you versus you. I'm going to say that again. It's not you versus the world. It's you versus you. And this happens to us all the time in our lives, right? We're not only setting these physical limitations, oh, I'm not a morning person, or oh, I can't run 5 miles a day, but oftentimes we set these emotional limitations as well. These barriers, they bleed all over into different areas of our lives, and we don't even know it, right? Like a lot of times after a breakup, we get hurt, or we get cheated on, or maybe our trust has been broken in some way, and we tell ourselves, I can never trust anyone like I trusted them. See, right there, you're putting a limitation of how much you can care about someone in the future because of how hurt you are by someone in your past. And you're scared. You don't want to take that risk of trusting someone new and end up getting hurt again. So think about this. Instead of asking yourself, what if this new person hurts me like the old one did? Try asking yourself, what if the opposite happens? What happens if a new person comes along and they show me love and gratitude and appreciation 10 times more than that old person that hurt my feelings did? Because that fear based thinking is exactly how you get trapped in harmful relationships. And whether that be romantic or friendships or even in your career, you get stuck in this what if cycle. What if I never meet somebody again? What if I can't find another job? What if, what if, what if? Well, what if it's way fucking better? What if you're missing out? Because listen, your decisions, no matter what they might be, right? To either stay in that shitty relationship or that job that you fucking hate or the opposite, pushing your limits and getting out of those commitments in search of something better. Whatever you choose, whatever your decision is, your body and your mind will adapt to it. So if you decide to stay in that shitty situation, your body and your mind will say, okay, this is our limit. This is as far as we can go. Same thing happens when you push that limit. When your body and your mind will kick into gear and they'll say, all right, baby, let's fucking go. I promise you. And Ben Gleib is a perfect example of someone who pushes those limits he was given and says, let's fucking go. And that's why I'm so excited to share this conversation with you. And I hope that after you hear about Ben's journey, it'll motivate you to push those limits and to make that change in your own life. Because it's not you versus the world. It's you versus you. The word that always comes up when I think about you is fearless.
Oh, thank you.
I met you years ago at the Ice House. We were randomly doing shows there, and then afterwards we went into you grabbed me and we went to Hollywood, and it was awesome. You took me around, and you're the nicest guy, and we didn't know each other from fucking Adam, and you were so nice. But the fearlessness came in. I see you on stage. And not only are you doing crowd work, you were one of the first comedians to record crowd work sets on Facebook Live.
For the first.
Yeah, which is insane. You're doing hour-long shows, multiple nights, all Facebook Live, and all from scratch. There was no material in them at all, which is insanity.
Thanks.
But I remember seeing you one night at the Ice House, and you came out from the stage, and there was two women, probably in their late 50s, maybe early 60s, sitting alone drinking wine, and you'd crowd worked a little bit with them a few times before this, but you sauntered out into the audience as you were singing to them, and then you got on top of their table and laid across it in the most romantic of ways.
How else can you lay across a table?
Yeah, exactly. You were unbuttoning your shirt, and you were serenading them, and the crowd was in stitches. I'm losing my mind. And then, a few moments later, you're back on stage and you're killing again. Like, it's that kind of fearlessness that I'm talking about when I think of Ben Gleib, where you are not afraid to push those limits, to go out of bounds. You are somebody who doesn't stay in the lines, and I've always loved that about you. And
that's the highest compliment. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. It's really great being your friend all these years and getting to know you personally. And
that dog is losing his mind. He's the most chill dog always, and he's like, talk about me. You're great too, Henry. Jeez, Henry.
You're fearless too, Henry. Fine. Jeez.
Fearless with your lap movements.
But you, speaking of fearlessness and all that, you just ended your campaign for running for president of the United States of America, which,
true.
Again, is such an insane move.
It's a pretty crazy move for sure.
Yeah.
Don't think I didn't notice the Gleib 2020 button in your podcast studio at your home.
I do have one. I love
that. I showed that to Carmel. I'm like, look at that, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. I gotta show it off.
I love that.
Yeah, because I think I was one of the first people to be talking to you about that when you were thinking about running and all that.
And you were one of the first people to help me get it going. Help me launch that campaign, man. You were a big part of it.
So tell me about what was it besides besides how horrible Donald Trump is? What sparked the idea to run for president?
That was really the impetus. It's as you know, I've been very political for a very long time. In addition to being crazy and laying on tables and serenading women of a certain age, I'm just obsessed with politics. And my podcast, Last Week on Earth, is not all about politics. I cover science,
current events,
pop culture, trends, anything, but also politics every week, everything that happened on the planet. And I've done a lot of stuff over the years on places like CNN and NPR, and I co-anchored ABC News Digital for a week, and I've been on Fox News even, and for which I'll never be able to repent enough. But so I really love politics. I know it, and I just kept having this fear that we're not going to be able to beat Trump, that all the candidates running on the Democratic side have this like fatal flaw, some kind of different problem that I don't know if they're going to be able to win with, because Trump just plays a different game, and nobody's trying to take him on as he needs to be taken on in a very creative, different way. Bloomberg's starting to use a lot of humor and a lot of like harsh, like coming at him ways that I think is interesting, but nobody was doing it, and so I figured what Trump really is a heckler. He's the greatest heckler in political history.
Yeah.
And the way you beat a heckler, as you know, Mike, is with a comedian.
Yeah.
And
you serenade them romantically.
That's one man I would certainly not serenade. In fact, I wouldn't serenade many men, but most of them, none of them. But I figured we needed a comedian, and it would have certainly been better with how celebrity obsessed our culture is and how much money talks if, Jon Stewart did it, or Colbert,
right,
or somebody with huge millions of people following, but they weren't doing it. And to whatever, risk this was to my life and career, I just felt I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try. I just kept having the thought over and over and over again, honestly, for far too long, for like a year and a half. I jumped in too late.
Yeah.
I just decided that I had to try. I just don't want to be somebody who says something and talks to his friends about something and thinks something for a long time and just doesn't take action on it. I've not lived my life in one path, like you said, kind of in your intro. I take a lot of risks. I don't think that's the best move for a career by any means, but it's fun, and it definitely makes me at least know that I left it all on the table and I lived my life my way.
I want to talk about that a little bit, since you've brought it up, is this idea of what did you lose and what did you gain by running from president with your comedy career? Did you notice it would isolate any crowds? Were you mixing it in with your regular stand-up shows, or I think it separate?
I think it remains to be seen what the effect will be on my career long term.
Right.
I'm definitely not booked at a ton of clubs at the moment, but I'm sure that'll be turning around, and we're gonna hopefully be able to make a deal with somebody to release a documentary showing the process. We documented much of it to kind of show the world really how serious this campaign was and what we were trying to accomplish, because I think a lot of people still don't exactly know. I know our supporters did, and I know but
yeah,
I think some people that don't know me well or didn't follow it closely don't necessarily know. But during the campaign, I was not able to do very much of my normal career. I did do some stand-up dates that I made each city's several days there into a multi-day campaign stop.
Right,
I would
yeah.
do events publicly, and I would meet.
You were doing beers with Ben usually on the Sunday afternoons and stuff like that when you're in the city.
Coffee and conversation and meeting people and touring, places that are helping drug-addicted women, or meeting with people at domestic abuse coalitions trying to end domestic abuse and sexual violence, and just doing whatever I could in each city to get to know the problems, the issues, stopping at veteran centers, spending a day in state prison, trying to learn the plight of all the different people that are disaffected in our world and that are not, treated as well by the system as those with means and with opportunity. And then during my shows, I would mostly just do my normal stand-up. People didn't book me to do politics, but I've always been a political comedian to some degree.
Right.
For being as political as I am, I don't do very much politics in my act. Like even pre-campaign, maybe I would do about 10 minutes out of the hour of politics.
Yeah.
And that's about what I kept to. I would only do really about 10 minutes of politics, my Trump jokes and some of my thoughts about different issues. And I would just let people know, as you may have heard, I'm running. I'm happy to stick around and talk to you afterwards about it.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't,
You didn't find any of it to be isolating at
Oh,
times
totally.
where if you were okay.
Yeah, I got into fights with Trump supporters. I had people rush the stage. I had people storm out. I had people breaking beer bottles in their beer buckets and cussing me out and walking out and near multi-way fights happening.
Right. Yeah. I know that you had posted about the Chicago threat that you had.
Yeah. I got a death threat from a Trump supporter before the campaign even began. It's one of the things that made me decide to run because they were trying to shut me up, and they said, you can't speak about the president like that. And I decided, let's double down and let's run directly against this monster.
Yeah.
So it's intense, but at the same time, in many cities I went to, I would convert Trump supporters.
I was just going to ask
Not
that.
all necessarily to give up believing in him, but some that said, I don't know, but you made some good points. We're maybe not as far apart as we think, and they would donate to my campaign, which was something I'm very proud of and something that not a lot of candidates can say. My campaign's over, so whatevs. But just saying, since you're asking.
Yeah, I was curious to that because that's what I find is I think a lot of the problems that we're having right now and have been having the last few years is nobody's willing to listen. Everybody wants to talk over everybody. Everybody is wanting to get their point across, but
let me just cut you off and make my point if I can.
Yeah, sure. But nobody's willing to listen to the other side.
Yeah.
And so I was curious to see on the campaign trail and while you're doing stand-up, if somebody were to come there who didn't have any idea you were running for president.
That happened a lot.
Yeah, and then you just started, being like, fuck Trump and vote for me and all that. Like, I was wondering if you ever converted anybody, those serious talks afterwards and what that looked like. And
yeah, no, I did. I mean, I posted one of them. A clip during a show that was supporting Trump, and then people started yelling at him in the crowd, and then and then he ends up waiting in line to talk to me afterwards and donating, and so that happened a few times, But people just they don't like to be attacked for supporting Trump. Of course, who wants to be attacked for what they believe in?
Right.
But committed to trying to understand people with different ideas. I mean, even the show you and I do together with Ken Gar.
Right.
We the People, where we bring two on the left and two on the right together, and I moderate this panel, trying to get us to look at our politics differently and to find solutions and common ground. And I tried to do a similar thing on the campaign trail. I would sit down for, at the Dubuque County Fair with a Trump supporter who was a farmer and had his farm, part of his farm, but one of his farms bought out by the government through easement rules, and felt like he was paid okay, and then his other farm is suffering a little bit because of Trump's China tariffs, but he understands why he's doing it and is willing to take it on the chin for the country to rebalance trade long term, and the perspectives you don't typically see.
That's what I want to ask, because as comics we are in a rare position of seeing the country in a different way. Because we travel so much, we meet all walks of life. I mean, the comedy club is I don't know. It's I don't want to say sacred, but it's not even taboo. But it's not. I don't know. It's a gathering of all kinds of people from all walks of life, right? You have hoity-toity rich people coming in, and you have people who just got off work. You have waiters and waitresses that are off work that night who are coming in. You have all of
oil sand workers and coal miners,
yes,
and electricians and construction workers. Especially if you do crowd work, you talk to all of them.
Yes,
you also then make fun of them, which is something
the
you don't
village
do on the
people
campaign
is there. Really. Yeah. And so all of these years you've been touring and you've been spending your time meeting these people already. Did you find that easier to tap into that empathy that you already had for people? Like, because you've already met so many people on the road doing comedy, and then you're running for president, and now you're in people's homes. I saw a video where you're in a lady's home and she's talking about the taxes on her farm and all this stuff. And so you're actually in these people's lives now. You're all up in their business.
Oh yeah.
Did those years of doing comedy help you connect better with these people? Because sometimes you see a politician be like really stiff when they're talking to people.
I think for sure. I mean, that was a big argument of my campaign, is that I'm the only regular person in the race, or I was, the only person who actually knows the struggles of real people, because I am one. I mean, just talking a minute ago about how I don't have a ton of gigs lined up at the moment because I was focused on a campaign, and I don't think my priority was getting my team to make sure my schedule was lined up for the following year. It's sometimes hard to figure out still even where your year's income's coming from, and that's something that the elite do not understand, that I'm not part of that group, to fortunately or unfortunately. And I think it comes down to your disposition. I think that I've always just been kind of, for lack of a better term, a man of the people. Like, I love people. I love meeting people. I love socializing with people after shows. A lot of comics don't. They hate it, and they don't want to even meet people, and they hide in the green room and go right back to their hotel. I don't like to do that typically. I like to meet people. But I also regret that. So by far, it definitely prepared me a lot easier to chill with random people because I've done it for 2 decades.
Right.
But I also regret so much that in the 20 years leading up to the campaign that I didn't spend more time like diving into the cultural differences in these towns and spending more time with people. Like, I think I'm going to try to start.
So that's interesting.
Spending more time with people, maybe going to lunch with whatever of my fans want to go to lunch once per city or something. I haven't figured out exactly what it's going to be yet, but it's just so rich for us as artists and for us as humans.
Yeah, I was going to ask that
their different lives.
If it was going to affect your future touring, if you planned on having any of these meetups or anything like that, or even like exploring the city more, or getting involved in
do all of that
communities.
More. Yeah, I regret the times that I didn't. I stayed in the hotel and slept in, or got too drunk after a bunch of shows and just slept all day, except when we had to get up briefly for 2 hours to do media at 6 a.m.
Right.
But so I do plan to, be more of a cultural citizen, I guess.
Yeah.
But I always did a little bit of it, but just not to the degree that I would like to. It's such an incredible opportunity we have traveling the country, like you said. Let's not squander it.
Yeah. Is there? Because you talk to a lot of people, you heard a lot of stories. Is there one that sticks out for you? And I don't want to say haunts you, but is there one that always that when you think of being out there and talking to those people and hearing their struggles, and is there a story or a family or that you think about when that comes up?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of them for sure, but a lot of people's big struggle is healthcare. A lot of people just told me how they just are afraid they're not going to be able to pay for a medical problem. They don't go to the doctor for medical problems.
Right.
That's very, very scary. Older people being worried about, what do I do if I get sick? And they're going to get sick most likely, as you age. But the one particular story that really sticks in my head was this couple at a house party for our campaign, like a supporters gathering at a house in Iowa, and they were telling me about how their 9-year-old daughter, the day after Trump was elected, the daughter went to them and said, "Can we please go make sure I have a passport? I don't want to be deported. I don't want to be kicked out of this country."
Jeez.
Because they were of Latin descent.
Right.
A 9-year-old having to think about that. I
mean,
what world are we living in that's a thing? What is this, the 1930s? I mean, how horrible that this is something needs to be on the mindset of children in America, the melting pot of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, there's no excuse for it. There's no policy. There's no judge. There's no tax cut. There's no stock boom worth not being the country that stands for the values that we're supposed to stand for.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to be funnier than this now because the campaign's over, Mike.
The campaign's over. I'm still dragging it out of you.
I've done a few friends' podcasts, and everybody's trying to drag me back into talking about serious political shit. And I just posted a video with me, Chris Porter, and Brad Williams on my podcast talking about having sex with farm animals. Chris Porter defending it, me being staunchly against, just for the record.
Of course, Porter defending it.
Man from Kansas.
Man from Kansas.
I didn't know that was how Kansas went down, but that's what he made the argument about. Yeah. And all kind of other messed up shit, So
that's great.
It's also a weird thing. Like I feel a little weird trying to go back to I'm trying to be as free as I can because trying to make up for a little bit of lost time now in my comedy career, and every time I post something that's a little bit more risque that I never would have thought twice about in the past, I think like I have to post it and make sure I put NSFW and just like hope people understand when I'm going back to my old life and not that
Right.
it's just a very weird thing because obviously it's not the kind of thing you talk about or think about when you're running for president. Like my act was a lot cleaner. I was just trying to, show people that if you want me as your choice, I can step up and be a leader you'll be proud of. But if you don't want me as your choice, which America did not, I'm also going to go back to being a crazy fucking person.
So is it over for you? Is politics, have you got it out of your system? Are you going to run again?
No,
or
that shit's out of
would
my
you?
system, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't even in my system. I didn't want to do it. I just really, truly did it to try to give the country another option. I feel like we need all hands on deck right now.
Yeah.
I've never served my country in the military. I don't know that I would have the bravery to do that. And this was my way to say I'm offering whatever else I can to help.
Yeah.
Whatever level down.
So you wouldn't run for mayor. Or
so
anything.
many people were suggesting, run for mayor, run for Congress, run for Senate. Throughout the course of the campaign, a big part of me started thinking, should I do that? Do I want to do that? And it's such a broken system. I never wanted to do that. But people like AOC are making me feel like there maybe is a way to have a lot more influence and power over the broken systems and trying to change them, even just as a member of one of 500 people in Congress. But I still she also has some advantages being really young, being a female, being a minority. She's able to galvanize people a way that I don't think straight white dudes in their 40s can necessarily do as much.
Right, yeah.
Hate that I'm even in my 40s. Hate that I'm straight. Hate that I'm white.
All of it.
I'm just a bunch of strikeouts right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a losing battle.
So I don't know exactly if I would be able to be as effective as AOC. I think I can be much more effective from the outside as an artist and an activist and doing the Telethon for America 2020, hopefully, and creating a show that helps us just question what we're doing and keep our politicians honest and point out the inequities in the system. And I plan to remain being an activist for sure. During the campaign trail, I got arrested in D.C. protesting corruption and trying to get the money out of the corrupt money out of our politics.
I wanted to talk about that.
I plan to continue that kind of activism. I'm not getting arrested too often, hopefully, but just trying to stand up against these systems.
Did you know? I mean, obviously, you knew that was going to happen to a certain degree.
I knew it was very likely we were going to get arrested. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was that thought process like?
I mean, I flew to D.C. specifically to join
to get
protest.
arrested.
To join the protest with a strong likelihood of getting arrested. Yeah, it was the Democracy 911 protest. This amazing dude, Ronaldo Pearson from Atlanta.
Were you invited?
It was open to everybody.
Okay.
I wasn't particularly
I didn't
invited.
know if he reached out to you and said...
He didn't reach out to me, no. I reached out to them. And so he walked 730 miles from Atlanta to D.C. to protest corruption. So he's the real one that really, sacrificed himself for this cause. I just wanted to lend my support, and my campaign was largely about getting the corruption out. And we can't fix all the problems we face if we don't fix the greater problem, which is we're not fixing any of them because money controls everything.
Right.
And the people's wishes don't mean shit. Literally, it's a statistically insignificant amount of influence what the people want over what policy happens. Gun control, climate change, income inequality, healthcare, housing, all of it. So you have to fix that first. It's awesome that Jane Fonda gets arrested in D.C. almost the exact way I got arrested. The videos are almost identical from her first time on her Fire Drill Fridays. But they're not going to take the action on climate change unless we get the money out, unless we get anti-corruption bill out. So I just flew out there and joined it, and I joined for the last mile of his march, and I knew that we were likely to get arrested, and as we were marching up, holding this banner for Democracy 911, the emergency that our democracy is facing, people being purged from the voter rolls by the millions, and all the moneyed influences and the revolving door, and the fact that we, are truly just trying to suppress the vote in many nefarious ways, and that we just don't have a democracy of, by, and for the people anymore. And walking up to the capital of our government and seeing all the police standing there guarding it, and knowing we were about to breach that line and sit in and not move, it was intense. It was cool. It was moving. It was scary. It was one of the more intense, amazing moments of my life.
How did you how did you prep
I brought
yourself?
snacks. I brought snacks.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. Is there any kind of prep work? Did you do any kind of meditation or anything like that, or any kind of sitting beforehand, or any prep work at all mentally to?
No. In fact, it was especially hard for me, not to give you a sob story, but and not to be too graphic or too FYI, or too TMI.
FYI, TMI.
This doesn't often happen to me.
HGTV.
Once in a blue as a human being, I get a hemorrhoid.
Yeah.
And I got a hemorrhoid right before I flew on a red-eye flight to then sit in on the Capitol steps, and then, assuming I was released from jail in time, fly back on another red eye. I was 2 red eyes cross country in a 24-hour period and sit in and was arrested, all with a pain that you can't imagine. So, I mean, I've given for my country. Obviously, I'm being silly, but no, we just did it, and it was awesome to connect with Ronaldo. And Henry, stop squeaking. We're doing a podcast. We're talking about freedom and democracy. And you just care about squeaky toys. It's inappropriate. I didn't mean to yell at you, Henry. Don't hide under the couch. You can if you want to. Be quiet under there. He loves hiding under the couch. He burrows. Because he's afraid of Trump. And we just sat down in the park and told each other stories of where we all came from before we went. And then we gathered ourselves and said those who are willing to risk arrest, stand over here. And those who aren't, stand over there. And I went in the group that was and marched over and did our thing.
How can you, knowingly getting arrested for something is part of that freedomlessness that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you.
Were you worried that it would affect your campaign in a negative way, or were you looking at all the positives?
I was not worried.
Standing up for.
Yeah, I was not worried at all. I don't think anybody looks negatively at people getting arrested in an act of civil disobedience, standing up for our values. And I'm pretty sure Elizabeth Warren at some point in her past was arrested. I know Bernie Sanders has been during a campaign. I think that's probably a first. Yeah, to be arrested while running
for president. I got arrested, and then.
But it's not like our campaign was like blowing down the doors and getting tons of press. I didn't feel like it would hurt us. I feel like even weird press or bad press could have been a positive.
Well, you did some really great things. You get Larry King Live, which was
awesome,
really great. You also sat down with on Fox TV on a different couple TV shows, but you also sat down with Tommy Lahren.
Tommy Lahren, yeah.
Yeah.
My former friend, I guess.
Yeah, and I know you guys have a past, not like dating wise, but friendship wise. You guys have a past. You guys have known each other. You guys have known each other.
Yeah, we were buddies for a long time, and she unfollowed me on social media after I stormed off her show, but so be it. I knew that was a risk when you storm off somebody's show that they vouch for you to go on.
Yeah, because you had sat down with her twice before that, right?
A few times before, even the campaign once before, and she did my podcast.
Yeah,
and then in 2016 we debated all the issues of the campaign on my Facebook Live and on hers from her Dallas studios. She's a very nice person off camera. She is very sweet and seems a lot kinder than you'd expect. She came out to my shows in Dallas and then took me out drinking and dancing afterwards with her friends, and is a cool person. But one thing I certainly learned in the course of this campaign is I don't need friends anymore that are fake. I don't need friends anymore. I don't know why I ever did, but we all have weaknesses in our lives where we allow for bullshit. And I don't need friends. And I'm not saying she's fake. She's not fake. She believes the shit she believes in. But I don't need friends that are fake, and I've discovered some of those in the course of this campaign. And I don't need friends that are espousing horrible things and are trying to divide our country and to do it for sheer fame or monetary value or to advance your career. That's bullshit. I don't need that. And so me being cool with her, I just decided I'll be cool with anybody, but I'm going to speak my mind. And when I was on her show live after the Democratic debate, and for 45 minutes I was dismantling. I released a whole video on my YouTube where I dismantle every one of their points for 45 minutes. I condensed it down to 20. Just making points they couldn't refute. You see them literally get flustered. You see them start jumbling their words and not making sense and making like childish noises by the end. They were like, yeah, well, okay. Like little like schoolyard shit. Yeah. And they still won't acknowledge a point. They won't acknowledge, okay, maybe we can compromise there. Sometimes you have to take a bolder move and say, if you don't understand common sense and words, you understand this, rip off the fucking mic. Peace. You are poison to this country. Not that people can't be redeemable, but I'm not going to sit there and indulge it endlessly and act as though these are two even sides to a conversation. They're not.
Yeah.
There's morality. Like I said when I stormed off, I'm getting fucking riled up again now, but we can debate policy. We can debate taxes. We can debate, all of that. What we cannot debate is values, morals, what we stand for, who we are. We cannot debate that. We're either good people with compassion or we're not. It's one or the other. That doesn't go two ways. And so acknowledge a point when it's made to your face that you don't have a response to. If you don't have a response, it's because you don't have a response. It's not because I'm wrong and I'm being crazy. It's because you don't have something to say to that. So sometimes concede a point. If not, you're just being poisoned. You're poisoning the well.
Take me through a day of, what is it like giving a speech? In comedy, I know it's, in that vein where I was at the Laugh Factory one night and Chris D'Elia was running late and they put up Dane right before Dane was wrapping up. He just did an hour and 40 minutes on stage.
Of course.
And D'Elia was running late and they were like, you want to do 10 until D'Elia gets here? And I was like, sure. Following somebody like Dane or, nowadays Bill Burr is always out and about and stuff like that. Following those kind of people it gets in your head a little bit, I can't imagine what it's like on the campaign trail when you're have to following speeches from Bernie and Warren and all these other people who are heavier hitters or who are more known.
Yeah.
Take me through a day. What is that prep like? What is in your mind? Are you just going over your speech over and over again, or are you kind of used to it being from the comedy side of things?
Yeah.
Are you used to just delivering and being like, whatever goes on before me, fucking whatever?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't get in my head following big people, especially in comedy. I love it. I ask for it. I've been lucky enough to follow Dane and Chappelle and D'Elia and Burr and all these guys a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Countless times in my life. I ask for it. I followed Seinfeld at 2 shows in New York recently in the last year or so. I asked to go directly after him because I wanted that challenge. I love it. To me, it's a misnomer when people think that it's hard to follow the greats. To me, the only thing that's hard is following someone eating shit.
Yeah.
When somebody eats shit, the energy's dead, people are in a shitty mood, and you have to recreate it. To follow somebody where the crowd is elated and is in heaven and is rolling in laughter, if you're any good, you can just continue that role. That's a piece of cake to me. So I love doing that. Following people running for president of the United States who are famous politicians was a little bit different for sure. It was intense. I still have, a huge amount of confidence in my speaking abilities and my ability to convey my points. But I was very new to making political speeches. But I'm not meditating. I'm not going over my speech over and over again. My biggest speech was at the Iowa AFL-CIO convention following every candidate. I followed Warren, former Vice President Joe Biden, Sanders, Buttigieg, Cory Booker, Marianne Williamson, everybody, Yang, and I'm just a procrastinator. So Ken Gar was there on the campaign trail with us, and I had the speech written the night before. I finished writing the speech at about 3 in the morning. And it needed to be 10 minutes long, and I delivered it to our campaign manager, Lauren, and to Ken, and it was 21 minutes long.
Jesus.
And so we spent the next day at the convention hall when I wasn't going through events and being walked around and meeting people. I was up in a hotel suite or hotel room, a tiny hotel room that they loaned us, editing it down. And then they kind of fucked us. We had a set time to speak. It was 4:15 p.m. I was speaking last after all of them. And we get a call. Our campaign manager gets a call at 3:20 saying you're on in 10 minutes.
Oh, my God.
The speech was not even finished being edited down.
Yeah.
Almost done. So Ken and I are freaking out. I'm trying to cohesively edit out the last few lines, get it down. I think I have it to approximately the amount of characters I need to be able to, amount of words to get it down to 10 minutes. I think it might be 11, but fuck it, let's do it. Even though I knew they could cut your mic if you're overtime. And run down there. There was a printer in the area in front of the hall where you check in, and I'm trying to go print it, and they had broken it down because I was last.
No.
There's no printer.
No.
There's no printer. I'm about to go speak in front of hundreds of union workers at the convention for AFL-CIO in Iowa, following the former vice president and every contender for president, and I don't have a speech. And I'm like, Ken, please run to the front desk of the hotel, try to print it. He's like, I don't know where to go. Yeah. Somebody else runs. They can't print it. It's taking too long. The guy on stage is literally stalling, trying to tell jokes.
No.
Not good. Lost all momentum of the room, everything. And I just said, put the laptop on the podium.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Open it as wide as you can so they don't really see it. But the guy comes and puts the laptop on the podium. Then they introduce me. I go on and I'm doing the mouse pad the whole time under the lip of the podium.
Yeah.
You can't tell I'm doing it. Nail the speech. Standing ovation when I'm done. One of the most insane moments of my life, getting to speak to working people as the only union member myself in the race, and tell them how I would fight for them if I were honored with winning the nomination. And it was incredible. It went off pretty well. That was a bit nerve-wracking, but you got to keep your cool. What else are you gonna do? So you just keep your cool. Like, it's a little stressful, but I don't often feel nerves. I just feel stressed sometimes. I'm like, all right, there's a lot of pressure on me right now, but doesn't help to get riled up about it.
Right.
You got to keep your cool. If you want to be president, you definitely got to keep your cool under all situations, obviously. So you have to just roll with the punches. And it went well. And then I don't know if I mentioned this. I lost the election. Didn't get on any of the debate stages.
No spoilers, Ben.
Yeah. We did end 15th highest fundraising active Democratic campaign, and we were done.
Which is huge.
Something I'm very proud of. I was on the New Hampshire ballot and got some votes the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
0.1% of the vote in New Hampshire. A very tiny amount of votes.
Well, I mean, I don't want to take this down, but there's been dead guys that have won Senate seats.
What? That's a fair point.
Didn't Vegas a couple of years ago? Didn't they elect some dead guy?
I think that's true. Yeah, and
Florida's always fucked. There's always a dead guy running in Florida.
Yeah, and honestly, would lead them better than their current leadership. I mean, Florida, we just need to cut it off.
I would vote for.
It's a little nub there. It's a growth. Just let it float into the ocean.
I talk about my disdain for Florida all the time. It's very well known. I don't play Florida anymore. I haven't in years.
Wow.
It is the rat tail of America. I don't like it. It's all swamplands.
It is swampy.
I wish
people on bath salt eating each other's faces off, falling into craters in the ground.
Every fucked up story you hear, you're like, Florida?
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% true. 100%. I mean, Florida, literally, they have dinosaur dragons in every small body of water that can jump out and eat you.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a beautiful little pond outside of your hotel room window, and there's signs. Angry alligators, do not walk near edge, do not feed, do not walk dog. I mean, it's nuts. I was throwing fajita leftovers to an alligator outside my hotel room window one time, breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
He loved it. He was loving that fajita.
Of course.
But I've even talking about fearlessness. I've gone head-to-head with gators in my life.
Wow.
Head-to-head. I put a T-shirt on a gator.
What?
I sat on a gator, and then I went head-to-head with a 15-foot older gator, and I intimidated him, and he turned around and went into the water.
Now, these are the stories you should have told on the campaign trail. You'd be the next president of the United
States. I know. That's the kind of shit that resonates.
This is what they want.
That's the kind of shit. This guy rides a gator? That's my president, baby.
This guy punched a gator?
Yeah, and I have video of all this shit, but I didn't punch a gator. That would be cruel.
That should have been in your whole ad campaign.
Feeds fajitas to gators.
Feeds fajitas to gators.
We'll fix America. But the problem is I was not able to be as silly and irreverent as I wanted to. Even as funny as I wanted to, because the thing I didn't anticipate, my whole premise was that I could beat Trump with humor and with being funny and talking shit to him, and when he goes low, it's a great time to step on them. A line Katie Couric just stole from me on Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And by the way, Michael Bloomberg just stole our campaign sign. Like, almost identical. I'll be posting this.
Oh, yeah, I saw the Bloomberg thing.
But everybody in every interview that was a professional political setting, the first thing they asked was, "You're a comedian. Is this thing a joke?" Talk about radio voices. Is this thing a joke? So now, instead of being funny and making my points funnily, which would read to them as it's a joke,
right? I
had to be as serious as can be to show my political chops, and it made for a lot of boring shit that did not resonate with people when I'm trying to beat Trump. And the whole point, Trump is just talk about fearless. Trump is fearless, dude.
Well,
he just doesn't care about anybody or anything. That helps when you're a when you're a sociopath.
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
easy to be fearless. You don't care about anybody.
I when you first was talking about the campaign,
I'm a nice fearless guy.
Yes, very nice. When you were first talking about the campaign, I pictured it to be like that Robin Williams movie, where you were going to be funny, where you were going to be hilarious, where you were going to be running the light and doing
And then
stuff.
it turns into a horror film, and I fall in love with Terry Polo.
Yes.
Well, none of that happened. I mean, I still tried to be funny in that AFL speech.
Right.
In every speech I gave, I spoke alongside the other candidates at several events, maybe 4 events. And in every interview I did, I threw in lots of jokes. I would do my Bernie Sanders impression and Trump impressions. No candidate typically does that. But it was just it was like little bits. It was like flavor on my messages instead of being the core. Like Trump is just like, I don't care about the rules. I'm doing it this way. You're a rapist. You're an asshole. We're going to build a wall. There's a swamp. I'm going to suck it out with my mouth. People are like, yeah, he's a mouth-sucking swamp drainer. I wasn't able to, like, do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I wish I could because we're fighting for the good guys.
Yeah.
And that's not Republican versus Democrat. We're fighting for the good guys of just good person versus bad person. Morality versus non-morality.
Yeah, you're just talking about human level stuff.
Human level shit. It's not a time for politics right now.
That's what I can't get over is the people that are claiming, especially in the religious factor where they're like, they claim to be good Christian people and all this stuff. And you're like, then how can you support Trump? How can you do that? How has he tricked all of these religious people into thinking that he not only is religious, but he's fighting for your... I guess that's it. Maybe because he is fighting for their religious rights. Yeah, exactly.
He has held true to
fighting
for what they want, but then he just pardoned all these criminals the other day.
Yeah, is
like
that
some of our biggest criminals?
It's the trade-off.
He's like the ectoplasm machines in Ghostbusters that failed. Now we need Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray to come out there and not cross the streams, or maybe cross them at the crucial moment.
Yeah. All right.
Trump is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but not fun to look at and not tasty when he turns into goo.
Yeah, I would say he's more like Slimer, where every time you see him, he just got Big Macs coming out of his mouth. He's torturing people.
Good point.
Running around the halls of the White House.
Yeah. And after you interact with him against your will, there's goo all over
goo
you.
everywhere.
Like, what happened?
And then you get a check from his campaign that tells you to keep your mouth shut.
Exactly right. Which Slimer does not do.
No. I know you kept a grueling schedule on the on the campaign trail. And I talk a lot about self-care and all that stuff here on the podcast. And do you practice any of that, or did you seek any of that out while you were on the campaign trail?
There was no
like that?
time. I wish I could have.
How did you keep your sanity?
In my life, I just have a lot of energy. I can operate well on very little sleep, and I had so much to do. There were so many mountains to tackle. From day one, I felt like I was way behind schedule.
Right.
So there was never a chance to catch up. And so I just couldn't think. It was just
that natural adrenaline.
Yeah, it was perpetual
pressure and
a perpetual flow of things I had to do, and not being able to get even still to some things. I want to get back to emailing back some supporters and things that I wish I could have had more time for during the campaign. But it's just you're trying to run an organization, build an organization, have it run in a field you've never worked in and something you've never done before. You don't know how to do it. The learning curve is unreal.
Yeah.
Following Federal Election Commission guidelines and financial filings and trying to talk to our campaign lawyer, make sure we're compliant in everything we do, and building ad campaigns and figuring out even how to be able to post political ads. And it was just a learning curve of the nth degree of all. It was nuts.
Yeah.
And there was no time to rest. During the course of the campaign, I'm lucky at age 41, up until the campaign started now, 10 months ago, before, it ended 2 months ago, I had, in my life, only 2 gray hairs ever. In the first 3 or 4 months of the campaign, I had 50 gray hairs pop up. And now I have grays in my beard, and I have grays in my hair. You can't really see it because it's not enough yet to take over, but if you shine a light closely, you'd see them. And so self-care has been lacking. When the campaign ended, my amazing girlfriend got us massages, and I got to sleep in a little bit, and I can't even remember if I took a 2-day vacation somewhere. I can't remember. Babe, did we take a vacation when the campaign ended? No, she says, annoyedly from bed.
No.
We did not, but we got to unwind a little bit, and we had a game night here that you came to, and had a poker night, and I did a little drinking and a little smoking and just a little relaxing.
Just back to reality.
A little bit back to reality, but then because of the year I took off basically for my career, I'm now trying to get my podcast going and build back some of the following that I lost from that, because people unsubscribe if you don't release a lot of episodes. And get other things going. So I've pulled like basically 3 all-nighters the last 3 nights in a row, trying to do the podcast and trying to get, videos of my stand-up collated and processed, and making arrangements to have them captioned and uploaded, and try to get things to go and take my career to the next level, because we still have this fight ahead with the election and making sure Trump loses, but also like I gotta eat.
Yeah.
My girl's gotta eat. My dog needs new squeakies. Right, Henry boy? Come here. Come here.
With all that being said, everything we discussed, would you do it again?
No, I don't want to do it again.
No, but would you, if you got to redo, you found it's fucking, you get a time machine, you get one pass, you get question. You went back in time, and now it's coming up, you have the choice.
Yes, I don't regret it. I mean, to whatever, the chips will fall where they may, and like I said, it remains to be seen where my life will go from this, but I didn't do it for me. I did it to help out, and so I would definitely do it again, but I would do it better, and I would do it a little bit different. Main difference being I would start way earlier. Like Andrew Yang started like a year before he announced, and kind of started to build support, and then he announced, and then was also building he was out there before a lot of people and had a chance to build momentum. And I think I would have made that first debate stage if I had started even like 4 or 5 months earlier. I started like basically only 6 weeks before the first debate. Yeah. And it wasn't enough time to build that critical mass. So I would do it again, and I would start earlier, and I would try to give us an even better chance, because we did something regardless of whether we were successful or not. And again, we were not. I want to make that clear.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, if you have been listening the whole time. But we definitely inspired a lot of people. And so many people told me they wanted me to be their president, which is an insane thing to have somebody say to you. So many people donated, thousands of people. So many people told me that I was the kind of candidate they always wish they could see. Gave them hope again for our politics, for a person that actually cares about people being in office. And that's the honor of a lifetime, and it's something I'll never forget, and I'll never be able to repay people for their belief in me. And it changed my life forever, Yeah. So I would do it again because I'm very proud of it.
Yeah. I appreciate you talking with me.
Have you started recording it?
No, we're going to start right now.
Awesome. I'd like to not talk about the campaign if possible.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay, obviously it's old news.
To the episode. I hope you loved it as much as I did. I hope you learned a little something today, and make sure you check out Ben Gleib's 1-hour special, Neurotic Gangster. It's on Showtime. It's on YouTube. You can also check out his show on Netflix. It's called Idiot Test, and you don't want to miss him when he goes back on tour. He's one of the best live shows that I've ever witnessed. He's sometimes off the cuff. He's interactive. He's so funny. You can check him out on Twitter and follow along with all the things that he is doing right now. And his handle is @BenGleib. Thanks again for listening. If you had fun today, you can always like, subscribe, or share the podcast with your friends. Hey guys, before you go, I just want to remind you that I have another podcast on the 4D Podcast Network. It's called Speakerphone, and I do it with my buddy and singer-songwriter Ryan M. Brewer. It's so much fun. We usually talk about whatever's trending, some current events, and then we kind of just razz each other and have a lot of fun. It's actually stemmed from the ideas of us having these great phone call conversations over the years and nobody getting to hear them. And so, well, we started to record them to share with you. It's so much fun. I think you'll love it. It's called Speakerphone. And you can listen to that on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this at. Thanks again for listening.